Corina Machado claims the United States must bomb and invade our country in order to spread democracy and peace, which she describes as an act of love.
How do you square military action with receiving a peace prize? Are we at the point it's necessary?
What we're fighting for is precisely freedom in order to have democracy, and democracy in order to have peace. And in order to maintain freedom and to achieve freedom, you do need strength. It's absolutely absurd that you see a regime, a criminal regime like Maduro, that gets support from Russia or from Iran, and then as a benefit to our people not to ask support from democratic countries and democratic leaders. That's absolute absurd. We do not have arms. We have our will. We have the power of organization and the power of love, which at the end, I have to say that peace is ultimately an act of love.
This is truly next level ruling class Orwellian logic. Not only is war equals peace, now war equals an act of love? These people are truly deranged. She claims that we must wage war against her country in order to spread democracy, but they already had an election that her party lost. The Venezuelan military and the Venezuelan Supreme Court validated the results of the last election, but we are supposed to believe that the entire system is rigged simply because the losing opposition party said so? Wait a second, now liberals are okay with election denialism? I thought denying the results of an election is the worst thing that you could possibly do. And the Venezuelan people sees this traitorous witch for who she really is, which is why 91% of Venezuelans hold an unfavorable view of Maria Corina Machado. I hereby call for Russia, China, and Iran to invade the United States and bomb our country. And when our regime topples, I will appoint myself as Vice President of the United States. I know it's a big sacrifice, but someone has to do it. This is Maria Corina Machado and the opposition party in Venezuela. Completely unironically, Nicolas Maduro has been way too kind to these treasonous scum.
What's poppin'? My friends, my family, welcome back. We have another episode of Nick in Primetime. You guys know I'm always in the lab cooking. Our editor, my boy Greg, he really was in the lab cooking for this one. What's poppin', my friends? Good to be back. There's a lot to discuss. We have amazing geopolitical reporter Camila, who reports out of South America, reports on a lot of South American news. She will be joining us later today. We're gonna discuss Trump essentially fighting to establish the Monroe Doctrine, because that is essentially what this is. And the rumors are that he plans on declaring war on Venezuela tonight. Apparently, and this is according to Tucker Carlson and a few other right-wing reporters, Donald Trump is planning on declaring war on Venezuela, making it official. And I think that would be a disaster for him in his administration, especially considering the vast majority of the American people, especially his base, oppose actual war. So what we are seeing is the reestablishment of the Monroe Doctrine as policy of global imperialism and the extension of the Cold War, because we know that the Cold War was essentially, despite what everyone would tell you, they would say it was like this struggle between the United States and Soviet Union, and that's true in a lot of ways. But it mostly was the global retaliation by the capitalist class against revolution and countries breaking from colonialism. So as countries broke from colonialism in the 1900s, absolutely, Zoya's love, Zoya's life, my good friend, the Cold War was rebranded, and it never really ended. And it's not as described. It's the capitalist class retaliation to worker movements on the eve of the Industrial Revolution, fighting against industrial capital, fighting against the ruling class. They look at the failures of the French revolutions and many others, and they was inspired by one of the most influential thinkers of all time, whether you like him or not, Marx. Like you got Karl Marx, who is probably the most read, important intellectuals in modern human history, and he sparked this revolutionary mass consciousness, and then more working class people was inspired when they saw Lenin be successful. Take the model from Marx, actually imply it, implement the Russian Revolution, take Russia, which was a pathetic, broken down state that was destroyed by the czars, and turn it into a geopolitical powerhouse. And that's essentially what Putin did today. And the never-ending war, the never-ending NATO expansionism is the Cold War extended and expanded. And the Cold War will continue, and it's continuing in South America right now. But we will get to that when our guests join. We have an expert in geopolitics, but especially that region, South America. We'll talk about that more in detail, and maybe I'll give you guys some more live updates about Trump's speech. But first, I had to cover this. Like, we are in the last month of the year, and right at the end, I probably stumbled upon the story of the year. Without a doubt, my favorite story. Like, we have a lot of banger stories this year, but this one has to be the top one. And I'm going to just cover this quickly because I cover all the time how anti-communism is complete and utter brain rot. I'm friends with people, and you guys know it. You guys know that, and I'm always saying this because of my good friends, my friends like Nico House, my friend Sarah from DDG. I have a lot of people that I associate with who are not explicitly communist. They don't refer to themselves as socialists, and I know a lot of people who don't like labels. Like, I understand how people don't want to be put in one ideological box, and especially since the entryism, the amount of reading required to understand the complex science of Marxism is quite overwhelming. I understand that, but I'm cool because with people who I don't view as counter-revolutionary, I'm cool with people who I view as still advocating for class consciousness, who oppose the empire, even though they may not be communists. I don't view them as ops that are getting in our way. I view these people as people who will have our back in the struggle. That's why I put the line in the sand when it comes to anti-communism. Like, I don't trust people who are anti-communist. And that's why the American working class is in a uniquely horrific position where we are the most powerful and rich empire probably in modern human history. And they have a complete underclass of wage slaves, millions of people who are homeless. We have millions of the working poor who cannot afford their own health care. That's like, we have a lot of capitalist countries, guys. Like, we have countries who, and I think they should suppress their capitalist class. I think they should focus more on working class based policies. But the United States has a unique homeless problem, and they have a rising medical debt and debt-driven working class because of the anti-communism, the anti-labor organizing, and just the general hatred of the poor, of the homeless, and people who even feed them. They call them burger flippers. You know, these people who they call burger flippers. Oh, yeah, you should pay this person a minimum wage. This person deserves to have his labor value stolen because he's just a filthy burger flipper. That's the hatred of the working class. It doesn't just come from capitalism. It comes from the decades of anti-communism, of individualistic politics that convinced the average American to distrust and hate their neighbor. This put the American capitalist class in a unique position where they can take advantage of the working class, steal our labor value. They can roll away and roll back our rights, They can build a militia, increasing their own power within the government by creating a giant police state that will suppress the interests of the working class. Like that's what they are. That's the mentality of not just a capitalist but anti-communist. And anti-communism swept through the West, and we are seeing that die, especially with the younger generations. But that's why I had to cover this story, because this story was absolutely glorious. The victims of communism, which is absurd at face value, okay? It's absurd at face value. Because if socialism and communism are so dangerous, why do you guys have to sanction and starve it? Venezuelan sanctions, for example, is estimated to have murdered around 30 to 40,000 Venezuelans just in 2018 and 2019 alone. There's not a lot of accurate figures on these kind of things. So when you take into account the amount of the countless of millions of people, we're talking about millions in Iraq alone, over 500,000 Iraqi children in the 90s. You're talking about millions of Koreans, 2 million in North Korea alone, murdered by capitalists. And this is the scourge of anti-communists. Anti-communists, they believe that they have the right to intervene in other nations to prevent the spread of pro-working class policies. That's why I draw the line at anti-communists, which is why you will never in a million years see me impressed by Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens, even though they make a good point every once in a while, but they're anti-communists. They're enemies of the working class. That's why they are obsessed with keeping the working class distracted. Oh yeah, by the way, how's that Candace Owens, Erica Kirk story going, by the way? Erica Kirk called Candace Owens up mad and she's like, oh, nothing to see here anymore. I've been telling you guys what will that story come to? There's a reason why I didn't cover it. It's the reason why I'm not like a good YouTuber who takes advantage of stories I should cover for increased subs, because there was no end goal to that story. Like, what happens after this story? All right, Israel killed Charlie Kirk. Now what? What's your plan now? Are you going to have a revolution? No, you don't believe that, because you believe revolution is authoritarianism. So what is the end goal of the politics of Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson? Nothing. Even if you accept and you agree with everything about their politics, how did that change the relation between the labor class and our ruling class who continue to screw us over? It doesn't. And that you notice how Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, none of these right-wing populists have no third parties they're planning. They're not doing no massive mutual aid to take care of the American people. Where is your strategy to oppose this ruling class you claim you oppose? There is none. That happens when you have zero Marxist analysis, when you're not locked in and engaged in class war, the same class war that the billionaire class been declared on us. Started in schools with the victim of communism. Let me actually talk about the story. I'm just talking about theory and economics, and I will never trust these people. They will stab you in the back if the working class ever had the position to challenge Candace Owens' billionaire, 100-millionaire husband and his power. If he was ever in a position to challenge the power that gave rise to Tucker Carlson, he would betray you. And I need you guys to understand that. When people wonder how I predict the betrayal of Zohran Mamdani and the betrayal of all these politicians, it is basic class analysis. You are not going to have any heroes coming from the capitalist class that want to skip away from class warfare. I'm not telling you guys you don't have to like their content when they get something right, because I do think Tucker Carlson has been killing it on geopolitics. Like, if you cover geopolitics, you have to admit that Tucker Carlson is great now. But you guys will never see me glaze them. You guys will never see me try to organize or be part of his shows, because they don't have any end game to the politics. And if there's no end game and there's no challenging of power, I'm quite simply not interested. Even if it would give me more subs, even if I got more views going along with these political theater. What's the point? If I'm covering and I'm just moving based on where the winds blow. That's not how I operate, at least. I'm just explaining I don't trust anyone who is an anti-communist. If you're anti-communist, your analysis of the world, your understanding of history, like whenever you hear Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens talk about the Bolshevik Revolution, I'm about to throw up in my damn mouth every time I hear it. I can't stand it. And if you're not about class warfare, if you're not talking about freeing the American people from the Zionist parasite, you're completely wasting my time, and I'm not interested. Now let's get to the story I want to cover. We're gonna have a guest. We'll get to Venezuela here soon. I looked it up. I think the Trump speech is at 8. Damn. I wanted to cover it live, but I think it may come on a little bit later tonight. But either way, we'll cover the Trump expansion of the Monroe Doctrine, him declaring war. Like, even if he doesn't declare war tonight, because I'm not even as sure of that reporting because it's hearsay reporting. Even if he doesn't declare war, that doesn't matter. He is engaging in an act of war by engaging in a blockade. For the entirety of human history, blockades have been the de facto act of war. All right, let's get to the story. I think where I got off track is I was talking about the victims of capitalism. Then I started going around. So to start the story, I was about to bring up, while even like on face value, this is absurd. Because they would take a percentage of the population who died under any circumstance. They're like, oh, victim of communism. Okay, let's talk about the victims of capitalism. So there was a study done, and I would love for someone to actually put these numbers together, because this is the number I used to quote all the time back when I was in the Bernie campaign. I'm like, you know that there's an estimated 60,000 Americans who die every year because they don't have health insurance. So if he was to calculate the amount of Americans who die because they didn't receive the care that they needed at the time they needed because they couldn't afford health care, they have an insurance company who denied them. You have people like Brian Thompson from United Healthcare, who was directly involved in, I should say, he was indirectly involved in pulling the trigger and killing you. Like, imagine all the people that died because of Brian Thompson's aggressive denial policy he had at United Health. So whenever a health insurance company that is ran by capitalists, obviously, whenever someone dies because they didn't receive health coverage in the United States, does that count as a victim of capitalism? So there was a study that showed that around 60,000 Americans die each year, and this was before the pandemic. This is pre-pandemic. God knows what the number is now. Does anyone in the chat seen a recent study? Actually, why not look it up now? Americans die each without health care. Because I am quoting a quite old study. That's a 2006 study. There's another study that says 45,000. This is the one I quoted. 68,000 Americans die each year because, like, this is what you guys see. This is this is the Medicare for All campaigning thing, but we will never actually fight for the bill. So this is what you tell people when you selling Medicare for All. Where's it? What does it actually say? I had the summary. Like, here it is. While 68,000 Americans die each year because they lack health care. You can even round down to 50,000. You can use 40,000 if you want to use the lowest number I've seen. Take that and multiply that by every year in my lifetime, and boom, you have millions of people who are victims of just our capitalist healthcare policy. Now, how many Americans die each year because they freeze to death in the middle of the winter. For example, we have a horrific winter coming up, and there are thousands of Americans who die each year because they freeze to death. You guys know that's something that no one ever talked about. Let's see if I can find some numbers. Since I'm doing this live, fuck it. Americans freeze to death. I did a write-up about this a long time ago. What was the actual number? Fuck, I want to use AI. More Californians are freezing to death. I just see a lot of stories. I can show it to her. Fuck it. I see a lot of stories of people, of stories of like homeless man found in Jackson after overnight freeze. Homeless man died. Like this happens all the time. People don't talk about it. Like, what do you think happens when you have millions of people homeless? And you have this you have a horrific winter coming. The homeless man found dead in Jackson after overnight freeze. Isn't that like tally all this up? Like, and I'm not even using the easy argument, because the easy argument is to be like, hey man, look at all the people you guys murdered overseas. You know, look at the fishermen that we are murdering in the Caribbean for oil. Look at how we completely destabilized the Middle East. I'm not even using those arguments, but it has been found that this memorial of the victims of communism was essentially full of Nazis and fascists. Because I explained to you guys the real history, the reality of the situation that Donald Trump and many capitalists deny to this day. And I'm talking about in both parties. You have Kaja Kallis in Europe, like, oh, you know, the whole thing about Russia and China celebrating World War II victory, that is crazy to me. I don't know why they would do that. Kaja Kallis, like, why would Russia and China, that had nothing to do with defeating Imperial Japan, who China was fighting for over a decade before we got involved. Funny enough, and I was going to mention this later, we used the same strategy in Venezuela as we did in Imperial Japan. Because remember, the Pearl Harbor happened because the United States put an oil embargo on Japan, which would have essentially destroyed their economy. It would have utterly destroyed their society as a whole. And that is what the United States used to lure Japan into a war. The United States didn't start a war with Japan because it was upset over Japanese war crimes. The United States didn't join World War II because it was upset after what Japan and the horrific torture and executions they engaged the Chinese citizens, including children. It wasn't to stop the Imperial Japanese invasion of the entirety of Southwest Asia, Southeast Asia. The United States didn't join World War II because of the Holocaust and because it was appalled of the war crimes in Nazi Germany. And do you guys remember how I had to explain this to Ro Khanna, someone who has a doctorate degree? That's why I revoked that shit. That doctorate degree is mine, fam. Like, you have to explain this shit to people who actually been educated in the United States. That the United States did not get involved in World War II over any humanitarian purposes. They did it the same way they're doing in Venezuela. They put in an oil embargo trying to force Maduro's hand to declare war. They will have no choice. So even though I can use the victims of capitalism argument, and I can use the global war argument to really highlight that, you guys realize that the victims of communism memorial, this is just perfect because this is just art at this point. They had to remove the names because all the names they was using was fascists and Nazis who was killed by the Red Army and by China. This is why the fascist West hate communists and socialists, and why if you're a true anti-fascist, you shouldn't be afraid to call yourself that. Why are you allowing the fascists to make you afraid of calling yourself the ideology that stopped fascism, that continues to be the vanguard against fascism? Liberalism enables fascism. It leads to the rise of fascism. Liberals and the capitalist class will always side and always enable fascism in order to suppress the interests of the working class whenever the working class becomes too much of a threat to capital. Which is why neoliberalism and liberalism as a whole will always side with the fascist elements in your society. It's a simple science, my friends. And what's more poetic than this? And I can end it here. And I'm going to read some chats. That now the Victims of Communism monument in Canada now has no names. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? The Victims of Communism, no names mentioned here. I think it's quite poetic. Remember, there is no greater enemy. There is no greater enemy to humanity than the United States and the Western capitalist fascist elite. They carved up South America during the Cold War. They destroyed the Middle East by putting a proxy Israel in there. And now they're trying to destabilize China and Russia by using Ukraine and Taiwan. And they will not stop until they are stopped. So let's read some super chats. I want to cover this story about the West Bank. I may get to that here very soon, but I do want to get to the Venezuela story. Maybe provide updates. What's popping? RBN, ACP, gang. Long live Maduro. That's why I like ACP, man, because you don't have to tell these people, like, you don't have to worry about them condemning Maduro like the DSA people. Keep up the great work. I appreciate the super chat. Like I was talking about the fascism of Europe. That what pisses me off about the Social Democrats. Like, they are quick to condemn Nicolas Maduro, Zoran Mamdani. Like, don't you know that Nicolas Maduro and Cuba, they are dictatorships? Sir, can you talk about the UK that is arresting 33 people per day because of their social media posts? Are we going to do that? Are you going to go after Germany, who is censoring people? Australia, they put out a statement today that said that they're going to arrest anyone who says globalize the intifada because of the Mossad false flag attack. So you notice how the Social Democrat DSA enablers of imperialism, they have all the hatred and all the funk in the world for Nicolas Maduro, Cuba, and the enemies of the empire. These are the same people like, oh my God, well, don't you know we got to condemn Russia? Don't you know we got to condemn the Chinese Communist Party? Condemn the West, which is ran by imperialist pedophiles. I never get a notification even though I hit the alert. You guys already know the game is rigged. Actually, I'm gonna end the RBS stream. We're gonna continue on my personal channel. I'm also on Twitch. I'm on X. Make sure you guys follow us on Rumble as well. I have my guest, Eder Kashwan News. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Reporter, geopolitical analyst who reports on South America. I'm gonna bring her on very soon. Guys, I'm always in the lab cooking. Hopefully, you guys enjoy these streams. I still have a few more things I want to cover. I'm going to get to this story here soon. I'm going to cover how the ceasefire is completely fake, which is why I find it utterly disgusting that, like, Zoran Mamdani and the DSA left, they're organizing with Zionists as Zionists are engaging in massive terrorism in the West Bank. They're engaging in genocide in Gaza as we speak, because the ceasefire is not real. Meanwhile, there's the United States left and trying to pretend none of this stuff is happening. So I'm gonna get to this later. I'm gonna cover how Israel voted to annex the West Bank, and they are enabling that via policy. But I want to talk about Venezuela now because there's a rumor that Donald Trump is going to declare war on Venezuela tonight, and I want to get the opinion of my guests on this story. Let me show you guys this tweet. This is insanity. But that's why it doesn't even matter if Trump really declares war on Venezuela tonight or not. Like, officially, he already did. as I mentioned earlier, in the history of humankind, the most common act of war is blockades. So as I bring my guests in here, I want to show you guys this tweet from Donald Trump. Oh, I don't want to read this. This is disgusting. Venezuela is completely surrounded by the largest armada ever assembled in the history of South America. It will only get bigger, and the shock to them will be like nothing they have ever seen before. Until such time as they return to the United States of America, all the oil, land, and other assets that they previously stole from us. And fam, we can write a book on this alone. But I'm going to finish the tweet. I'm going to give my guest thoughts on this. This is insanity. This is the imperialists openly declaring their intentions that everything that exists in this hemisphere is ours. The revival of the Monroe Doctrine. The illegitimate Maduro regime is using oil from these stolen oil fields to finance themselves, drug terrorism, human trafficking, murder, and kidnapping, for the theft of our assets and many other reasons, including terrorism, drug smuggling, and human trafficking. The Venezuelan regime has been designated a foreign terrorist organization. Therefore, today I'm ordering a total and complete blockade of all sanctioned oil tankers going into and out of Venezuela. This is insanity. I want to bring my guest in. I think you guys get the gist of it. I want to bring my guest in. She's editor of the Kaswatran News. Hope I get that right. Correspondent from STV. Great geopolitical analyst. Thank you for joining us on RB on my channel, Camila Escalante. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you for inviting me. And you invited me a while ago. And of course, we both knew that regardless of what was going to transpire, that even though I wasn't able to come on at that time, that we would still be talking about Venezuela on this chosen date, because Venezuela has been in the headlines for so long. But I also want to say that I don't consider myself to be any type of analyst like so many other people we know. I'm a reporter. And so, you know, what distinguishes my work is that I've spent a lot of time reporting around Latin America and sometimes entering sensitive spaces or doing coverage that's quite exclusive. As a reporter, though, you know, I don't purport to be any sort of analyst or anything else, and I don't always have the opportunity to sit at home and read all of the reactions and everything that's going on online, because sometimes I spend a lot of time just talking to the people and attending these different things to see for myself what's really going on.
Yeah, very well said. And because of your experience as a reporter, I want to get your thoughts. How are people in Venezuela reacting to this? Is Maduro supported by the Venezuelan people because there are nonstop English speaking? I think they're Venezuelan bots, but they are littered all over social media where they say the Venezuelan people are against Maduro. So as someone who actually have on the ground reporting experience on this issue, what is your reaction to Donald Trump's tweet, the announcement of an oil blockade, a naval blockade essentially, and how are the people on the ground receiving this news and United States aggression against their state?
Well, first of all, this sort of announcement that the United States intends to escalate militarily once again, furthermore, into Venezuela to target South American objectives. It could even be Colombian, because they're even designating another supposed organization as a foreign terrorist organization in Colombia this week at the same time. That just signals that Venezuela has, throughout this period of years under sanctions, has been victorious and has successfully overcome the economic war waged by the United States and its lackeys in Europe and Canada and some Latin American countries that were leveled against Venezuela in order to induce an externally induced manufactured crisis that would send people into the exterior, looking for better economic opportunities. They migrated to the US, they migrated to neighboring countries in South America, etc. And it made things very difficult in the country. But in recent years, things have recovered. The economy has recovered. Things are looking very normal on the ground, to the point where I was going and interviewing people, and most of them, unprovoked, if I didn't ask them, wouldn't even bring up the United States military aggression in the Caribbean, because it's not really the news that they're paying attention to. Obviously, that might change this week. Certainly today, it's on people's minds. But in the last few months, I mean, we're talking about sustained military US military, I don't want to say pressure, because it's really just bullying and trying to provoke some sort of military reaction from Venezuela, and trying to set up some sort of false flag. But this has been going on since the beginning of September, sustained, but we're talking about years and years under siege. The Bolivarian Revolution has been attacked since Hugo Chavez came to power, and certainly since President Maduro took over in the last decade. And so, people are accustomed to seeing Venezuela in the news headlines, and so they just want to live their normal lives. That's the fact. People start Christmas celebrations really early, and that's what they're focused on. They're focused on making and eating hallacas and a traditional Christmas Venezuelan dinner, buying presents, having parties. There are corporate parties, insurance companies. They hold their banquets at the hotels in Caracas. I mean, this is what normal people are doing. They go to the beach, they do fishing, they have their businesses. And so, people just want to live normal lives. Not everybody in Venezuela supports the government, but a lot of people have spoken out who are some type of opposed to the government, important opposition figures, some who've ran as candidates before, who have held public office, and they have said that they oppose any sort of military intervention aimed at destroying Venezuela or beginning a war. It does seem to be the case that the people who are most in favor of bloodshed are people on the exterior. And so really people like that shouldn't be speaking for people in the country who are actually going to be put in danger, or in the wider continent, by some sort of further military escalation or direct attack on land target. But it is just that. It's people on the exterior. It's right-wing influencers from all sorts of countries, like Argentina, like the far right of Colombia. They're not even Venezuelan in the exterior. They're just foreigners, period, and bots. We're just seeing bots. Every time I post anything on my social media, you're seeing a string of replies. And a lot of times the replies from the bots look like they're responding to something, like they disagree with the post, but they don't actually say what they disagree with, or their response doesn't even match what you said. I mean, it's just bots. People don't really feel like this. In the region, people widely reject this.
Yeah, I'm telling you guys, I'm a big believer of dead internet theory, man. You guys have no idea how much the capitalist class influenced them with bots. We covered how Zionists engage in massive online disinformation campaigns where they invest millions of dollars of spreading Zionist disinformation online. And why do you guys think they support Maria Corina Machado, who praised Benjamin Netanyahu as he was slaughtering the Palestinian people in Gaza, as Nicolas Maduro called for the Jewish people to take up arms against the Israeli state? There's a big part of that as well that has a factor in this. There's a lot of different factors of this. Another part of it is people like Maria Corina Machado in the opposition, who calls for the United States to sanction their own people. That's how you know they don't have the intentions of the American people in mind, when you have Maria Machado calling for and supporting the United States invasion. And if you look at all these bots on X and Twitter, I always call them out. I always ask them, do you support United States sanctions on Venezuela? And they never answer the question, or they dodge it. Or you get maybe 1 or 5% of them that will actually admit they do support it. But you would never, I would never take anyone seriously who will call for the CIA, people who have a reputation of murdering millions, people who obviously don't care about the people of your country, but you are calling for them to get involved in your country because you seek power Do you guys understand how ridiculous that is at face value? But here's Donald Trump, because Donald Trump, he's been very open about this today. I want to get your reaction to this. And I'm going to show you guys how the liberal corporate media that is the managers and the lawyers for the imperial regime, they are legitimizing Donald Trump's imperial conquest. But I'm gonna play this clip, and I want to get your thoughts, Camila, afterwards.
We want it back. They took our oil rights. We had a lot of oil there. As you know, they threw our companies out, and we want it back.
So here's Donald Trump saying the quiet part out loud, and here is Vox, and it's just one example. I was watching him. I tweeted today, like there was MSNBC lawyer motherfucker, a liberal. He was playing how I think there was a legitimate cause for regime change to Nicolas Maduro. But you guys see how they reported? The black market has been growing for years. This escalation put a new spotlight on it. You guys see how they sell United States sanctions as valid, binding international law? And that's what liberals do. But Camila, I want you to respond. Any thoughts? Because you had Donald Trump, who was selling the idea that this was about drugs, that this was about dictatorship. And then on the other end, they say it's about oil. So Camila, any reaction, any thoughts to Trump and his comments there?
Well, it's just like if I was going to say that I have stored or that it was stolen from me Rice Krispies treats in everyone's pantry, and then I have to walk into someone's house without a key and go remove them from the snack cupboard. I mean, you can just at this point say that anything anywhere belongs to you, any resource. But the vice president, actually, Delcy Rodriguez, has responded to this. She said Venezuela's first oil company in 1878 was founded with exclusively Venezuelan personnel. She said this was a distinctive characteristic of our industry. The periods when the U.S. managed to control puppet governments to hand over energy resources ended with Hugo Chavez. She says that this is like, Venezuelan oil has always been Venezuelan oil. Like, what is, what are they even trying to say? They can say anything. It's just like, it's just like when they were, just blaming fentanyl on Venezuela, they could just equally blame like chicken pox on a random country in Asia and say that, they're shipping in mass chicken pox in donut boxes to the people of the United States. At this point, you can say anything.
Yeah. And I almost feel bad even asking you to respond to that, but that's the reality we're living in, where we have the most powerful person in the world just insulting our intelligence on a daily basis. It's the same with him pardoning Juan Orlando Hernandez, the drug lord president of Honduras. And whenever he was asked about this, explaining, like, well, I don't give a fuck. I don't have to explain anything to you. I think it's a power move where they say stuff that sounds so ridiculous. They don't even try to sound reasonable because they're essentially telling you that there's nothing that you can do about it. This is our international order. Israel proved in Gaza. We proved in Iraq. We proved in Korea. We proved in Vietnam that the international law doesn't apply to us. So if you're bombing hospitals, you killing fishermen on the seas. What is it to you to be a pirate as well? And supporting piracy as international law, international policy. So this is Maduro. I think this is just him saying the facts here, calling the U.S. naval siege a colonialization attempt, which is it 100% is. I want to get your thoughts on Maria Machado, because you had Julian Assange. You got to know Julian Assange always in the lab cooking. Julian Assange, he's still out there holding the powerful accountable. He now is suing Sweden because he claimed, this is the Gray Zone reporting this. They come from WikiLeaks, obviously. Sweden broke on our own laws with the Nobel Prize to Venezuela's Maria Corina Machado. The WikiLeaks founder and former political prisoner has fled an explosive legal brief against the Nobel Committee for its award to pro-war coup plotters. So Julian Assange is holding them accountable. And they just did this whole story about how Maria Corina Machado and the Western news planted this fake ass story, like she had to flee Venezuela, and she was injured on her attempt to flee Venezuela. And I'm like, the fact that she even was in Venezuela in the first place shows that Nicolas Maduro has been way too kind to these people. And the fact that Maduro is not worried about her. But she gave a speech explaining how that she wants the United States to engage in regime change, and when she's finished, she wants to be appointed vice president, which is completely absurd. So I want to ask you, like, how are the people in Venezuela responding to her? 'Cause I can just report on data I see. I saw one data point that showed that 91% of the Venezuelan people disapprove of her, but these are just numbers I'm reading as a foreigner. I want to get your thoughts as someone who's been on the ground. Is Maria Corina Machado like a heavy hitter in Venezuela? Is she a legit rival to Maduro? Is there a lot of support for her? I want to get your thoughts as someone who actually been on the ground. I'm just reading numbers. That's all I'm doing.
Well, in the period that we've had the Bolivarian Revolution in Venezuela, we've seen any number of leaders of the opposition come and go. So Maria Corina could be the main figure leading the far-right opposition of Venezuela for another 2 years or another 2 weeks. Like, we don't know how long this is going to last in terms of the charade that's going on here. But if she were a regular person who was in your workplace, a coworker, a classmate, someone you were around all the time, and she is a pathological liar, she would be called by psychologists all sorts of things. She would be diagnosed as all sorts of things beyond pathological liar. You would call her whatever diagnosis that is, because she will say absolutely anything. She has agreed with the fringe conspiracy theory and promoted it now that Venezuela's governments, Chavista governments, have interfered in the elections in over 70 countries. Now she is promoting that. She has said in some weeks, in some statements, that there is the presence of Hezbollah and Hamas in Venezuela. Some US lawmakers have said that. Guess what? This week, they're not saying it at all. Like, that's how they go from one thing to the next to the next. It's always something different. And anything that any far right person in Florida or Washington can think up, she is reiterating it. So it's not serious. It's not credible in any way. And people in Venezuela have seen that for a very long time. And remember, she has adopted and taken over the credibility of Juan Guaido. Juan Guaido and his associates were known for having stolen millions of dollars, first being employed by the US State Department and working with US agencies, and second, for having raised money that went into their own pockets and that completely disappeared, including in the Venezuela Aid Live Cucuta concert, which was just a complete just scam. And what was the aid that was being delivered there in those trucks? There was absolutely no aid. And so these people have, some of them have lucrative careers. They're able to own their large houses and condominiums in South Florida and in Washington. So it's not credible, even if, once again, there are people who oppose the government or would like to see someone else in office. They wouldn't support any of this. And it's also important to say that before they decided this year that it is more specifically about organized crime and drug trafficking and fentanyl, that it was supposedly about human rights and democracy. And within that, the discourse of the United States and Europe and Canada was that Venezuela does not uphold democracy and basic freedoms like freedom of the press and those sorts of claims. And those are the claims that are still maintained by Europe, by the way, today. But as they're saying that this is a dictatorial regime and so forth in the United States, it was just exactly what you were saying when I signed on, which is that in the United States, they're actually cracking down on any sort of dissent in an unprecedented way in recent years. As far as recent years goes, they're creating, orchestrating, engineering false flags. They are basically cracking down on types of protests against ICE, abductions and forced disappearances, anything that's seen or deemed to be anti-American or anti-capitalism or anti-genocide. People have been stopped at airports for the places they traveled, and things like that. So really, it's the United States that's guilty of everything that it's accusing other countries of doing. And I mean, we have to always have the spotlight on like the bad country, the baddie guys, which at the moment is Venezuela, but really it's the United States that should be under a microscope. It's the United States where things are completely absurd. It's a completely irregular country as far as the world is concerned, where absolutely odd things happen, where there is an insane amount of inequality, given that it's one of the wealthiest countries in the world with the largest economy, and how many billionaires are in the United States. The average working poor person in the United States has a harder life and a harder time paying their bills and staying housed than ever before. It's possible that people in watching this right now are worse off financially than they were for the whole of their lives. Things are actually getting harder for people in the global north because our parents would have been able to pay the rent or whatever, and now we can't. We're always a day away from living in a tent in the park, so or a month away or a paycheck away or whatever it is. So it's quite absurd, and regular people in the United States have to ask why it's like that. Why does their government hate them so much that they don't have rights to a decent education, to universalized health care, to different types of medical care therapies and things that exist in other parts of the world, and they can't spare them from the violence that exists and plagues that country and all the different epidemics facing the people of the United States. It's really that country that has all of the problems. It's truly the shithole of the world, and it's trying to impose on the rest of the world and produce crises around the world where they don't exist, and where they certainly wouldn't exist under the revolutions like the one we have in Venezuela.
Yeah, that's a fantastic analysis. And their plan is essentially to completely destabilize the country of Venezuela, and it doesn't benefit. And I make this point before, and I hate the fact that I have to make this point. I explained to people before that these imperial conquests don't even benefit us in the imperial core. It is never-ending plunder by the capitalist class that drain and siphons our own resources. It's an attack of the global South and their working class while draining our resources for what? Just so oligarchs can play Game of Thrones on the chessboard and make light of our lives. And I think that's why it's upon us to call out these imperial regimes, because their plan is against the will of the Venezuelan people, install Machado as vice president. And how would that even end? Because Machado is going around saying, yeah, I support Donald Trump's strategy in Venezuela, and there will be no chaos, there will be no problems with transition. She keep going on these Western media outlets and she's explaining out, oh, there won't be any problem during transition. Wait, what do you mean? Like, you will be installed by military force coming from an outside power. And Camila just explained how she has no grassroots support in Venezuela. So the only option they will have was to install dictatorship, to force a Western capitalist style form of government on the people who implement austerity. Where does that sound familiar? Like, it's common playbook and common strategy. And I appreciate your expertise on this topic. This will be the last thing I'll share with you, and I'll let you go. But this is the video. I want to cover Donald Trump's speech. I don't know if I'm gonna be live long enough, but I know he's supposed to go live in an hour. And the rumor is that he's planning on announcing war. And this is the source that everyone is using is Tucker. Or explain, I'm not a big fan, but this is the rumor that is going around, and I want you to respond to it. The rumor that Trump is going to declare war tonight.
Is Trump going to start a war in Venezuela?
I don't know. I don't know when this program airs, the one that we're on right now. This thing's maybe live.
Well, we're live now, and then it'll be posted immediately. So now,
my sense is, I don't know the answer. I've certainly been on the phone a lot about it. I have no power. I'm a podcaster, but I'm very interested. And so here's what I know so far, which is that members of Congress were briefed yesterday that a war is coming, and it'll be announced in the address to the nation tonight at 9 o'clock by the president. Who knows, by the way, if that will actually happen? I don't know. And I never want to overstate what I know, which is pretty limited in general. But a member of Congress told me that this morning.
This is the capitalist dictatorship that we're talking about, because when you even ask Republicans, the vast majority of the Republicans, the American people, oppose war in Venezuela. I mean, it's around an 80 to 20% ratio. The number in these polls I'm seeing is insane. So the American people oppose an increase in military budget. What do we get? An increase in military budget. The American people oppose sending weapons to Israel. What do we get? Weapons into Israel. And the vast majority of American people oppose war in Venezuela. So what are we going to get? War in Venezuela. So as I mentioned before, I don't know if this announcement is true. Whether he officially announces it tonight is whatever. We know they're actively engaged in war in Venezuela, and it's going to end in disaster politically for Donald Trump, but also because the United States military and our army is not made up of warriors. We're gonna have another situation. We have soldiers coming back in body bags. That's going to be the only way where people question these foreign policy decisions. But anyway, I want to get your final thoughts. Thank you for joining us today, Camila. It's great to have your reporting and your expertise on this issue. Any final thoughts, any reaction to Trump, and any thoughts that you can share with us on how we can continue, or how we can possibly resist the imperial ambitions of our ruling class? Any final thoughts, Camila?
They're starting on very shaky grounds if they believe that they can launch an attack strikes on land targets in Venezuela or anywhere in South America at this point. Nobody believes it. There's not one single Republican or US government official who actually believes that fentanyl is coming from Venezuela or any of the majority of drugs, be it cocaine or anything else. Nobody actually believes that. They just have to say it. Nobody actually believes that anyone on any of these boats being extrajudicially killed is anything beyond just a poor fisherman or someone who's just on the boat as some sort of a boat hand. I think they're crystal clear, and so are the people of the United States. It's not really a question of whether people in the United States, the average person, supports a foreign government or is going to defend Venezuelan sovereignty and self-determination. Surely not. I'm sure the average person couldn't care less, but nobody actually believes that, because we have already established that there has been great DEA involvement in the trafficking of drugs, as well as the CIA historically, from different parts of the world to the United States into the hands of American citizens. And they continue to do that now. Nobody actually believes that there's going to be a point in the near future where there is actually a lower level of drugs coming into the country as a result of all of these rogue actions that they're carrying out at sea. It really is just some sort of weird, scam or campaign to both distract from the other things that are going on, including the widespread and growing dissent in the United States. And they're also using this pretense of a war on drugs in order to further encroach on the different countries of Latin America and the Caribbean. They're going to these different countries, Southcom military leaders, and they're signing agreements with these complete lapdog governments. And they're offering hundreds of millions of dollars in all sorts of military equipment. They're supporting with, training to keep their militaries updated. They're providing advisors, new vehicles, helicopters, and things like that for the police and the military of these countries. And once these countries enter into these sorts of contracts with the United States, it's near impossible to terminate these contracts. They're stuck with the gringos in their country indefinitely. That's the case in Colombia. That's the case in Honduras, who have now had years of governance of a progressive leftist governor, and they have not been able to reverse the prior agreements between the United States and their countries in terms of so-called security cooperation. And so they're using this pretense of the so-called war on drugs and the need to intercept these narco traffickers at sea and otherwise in order to re-enter the country. Under Rafael Correa in Ecuador, the constitution was changed so that it was illegal for the United States or any foreign government to use Venezuelan or to use Ecuador as a military base, to have military base or military presence in Ecuador. And that has now been reversed under this neoliberal US puppet government of Daniel Noboa, who actually put forth a referendum to try to reverse that constitution, but actually failed. And yet still today, they announced in Ecuador that there's going to be, or 2 planes of US troops has already arrived at the base in Manta. And so they're already bringing US troops to Ecuador. There has also been the approval to bring in US troops to Peru this week. And then they have signed new agreements of so-called security cooperation to tackle narco trafficking in the region between the United States government and the governments of Costa Rica, of Paraguay, of course, in recent years in Guyana, in Trinidad and Tobago. The United States Marines came to Tobago and installed a radar system whose data is being accessed and controlled by the United States military with 170-mile radius capacity. This is like a very high-tech, long-range radar that is being installed just miles away from Venezuela's shores. And so all sorts of, military movements are happening around the region, not just the intended supposed naval blockade and the air blockade, but it's all of these other movements as well. So, this is extremely dangerous, even if Trump somehow doesn't end up in the next hour announcing anything big in terms of an escalation or strikes or a war. We're already in a very difficult and dangerous situation because we've already ceded so much of our territories to the use of Southcom for future war.
Very well said, Camila. Thank you for joining us tonight. Make sure you guys follow her on X. She's one of my sources. I get a lot of my information about South America from her. So I appreciate you joining tonight and sharing your knowledge with us. Make sure you guys follow Camila, support her work. I appreciate you joining us. I'll pop you in the back. Thank you once again. I'll read some chats. I'm going to read some super chats. And also, I want to I'll probably cover a little bit of the story about the West Bank. Camila, fantastic guest, man. Like, what a intellectual heavyweight Camila is. On the ground experience. I appreciate that she was able to join tonight. I'm gonna try and read some more chats. I'll be getting behind on chat so much. So if Maria Corina Machado has no support at all, Venezuela might not be a war. It might turn into another military occupation. Yep, it's going to be a military dictatorship. Like, fam, that's why we need uncritical solidarity with Nicolas Maduro, because if he loses, we're going to see, we've seen it in history. Like, whenever the West is successful with installing their own fascist regime. And look at the insane, look at her, the insane eyes of Maria Corina Machado, for example. You know that she can't wait to install a dictatorship on her people. She can't wait to kill Venezuelans on behalf of the West. So if Maduro loses, if the West is successful, they will plunder their natural resources, install a military dictatorship. It'll be horrific. Yeah, Camila's great. Great guest. What's poppin', Casey? Charlotte has crazy eyes. They're saying Cuba may fall first. I hope not. She definitely has some crazy eyes, that's for sure. Did I read the super chat? I know. Yeah, I think I did read a few of the super chats. Thank you for this one again. There are so much Venezuelan news. I'll keep my eyes on this like a hawk. Here's Maduro. The truth has now been revealed. They aim to impose a puppet government. That's what Machado said. And I covered that in my hotspot video. Can you imagine how our government would react? if we openly started a party where our message was we want China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, all the worst enemies of the United States, and we call for them to engage in the mass bombing campaign of our country. And then after you guys successfully topple the government, don't worry, there won't be instability. I will personally appoint myself as vice president of the United States after China and Russia helps overthrow our country. You guys realize that's what she said? You understand how ridiculous that is? Let's see if I can find the quote for you guys. Is this it? Like, look at this stupid shit. Venezuelan opposition leader says she aims for a peaceful transition after Maduro. Get the fuck out of here. Come on, man. So she thinks everything is going to be peaceful. After the United States wages a violent war that will murder countless Venezuelans with an escalation on sanctions, naval blockades that will harm the average Venezuelan. But Maria Corina Machado wants all the dumb suburban wine moms and suburbanites, these neocon Americans, they want them to believe that all we have to do is just engage in some regime change, just install a little bit of a military dictatorship. It's a little bit of a military dictatorship. And then once you do that, all you have to do is put me as vice president, and trust me, the Venezuelan people are going to be 100% okay with it. This is the kind of shit they want us to believe. Does she say she want to be vice president in this article? I swear to God, I'm not making that up. You guys know I like to show my work. I'm always in the lab cooking. I'm skimming through this. Where's the part where she says she want to be vice president? I want to find it, because that's just peak insanity. I call for Xi Jinping to liberate the American people, and then when he's done, don't worry, I will take the reign of power. It's a sacrifice I'm willing to make. Just like someone has to do it. I'm gonna find the damn article. Hold up. Transition irreversible. Look, this is that bullshit story. Oh my God, dude. This piece of fake fucking news that is repeated as fact. Because I explained before, if Nicolas Maduro is such a tyrant, why is she allowed to operate in Venezuela as she called for war against her own government? Because I saw a Fox News segment where it was that Maria, the other crazy Maria chick on Fox News, she was like, she's reporting in this secret hideout in Venezuela. Like, are you white boomer motherfuckers really believing this? Like, as if she's in this hiding spot in Venezuela, calling in to Fox News. But the Nicolas Maduro government just can't locate her as much as they want. Like, that's the all-powerful tyrant versus the incompetent dictator they always present. So, according to them, Nicolas Maduro wanted her dead, but the Venezuelan government just couldn't find her. Despite satellite technology. Like, she's very sneaky. Bro, she has 100 sneak. If she was playing Skyrim, she has 100 sneak. She's Metal Gear Solid Snake. What other pop culture reference can I make to explain? This bitch is Batman in Venezuela. They can't fucking find her. That's the story that they told us about Maria Corina Machado. And now that they are starting this war, they need to find a way to justify her fleeing the country as she is calling for war on the country of Venezuela. So, don't you guys realize that the fact that she was even a fucking thing shows how not only Maduro is not a tyrant, it shows how irrelevant she is politically at the end of the day. That Maduro's like, I don't even have to fuck with you, to be honest, because your existence makes me look better. So a lot of people underestimate the political calculations and the statesmanship of Nicolas Maduro, and this is why he kept the global majority on his side. I explained many times before, I think, and this is my personal opinion, I think he has done a great job the last 10 years navigating United States aggression, because it's not like there's a fucking handbook. It's not like there's a fucking historical precedent on how a ruler is supposed to navigate being sanctioned by the largest economy in human history and their allies. How to navigate the West seizing your oil. That's why I hate the fucking social democrat Trotskyite bullshit, where they want to be super critical of other states as if there's like a fucking perfect handbook on how to navigate United States sanctions. Be like, well, don't you know that North Korea is evil because they didn't navigate and manage their resources properly? Okay, we're the fucking handbook on how to do that. But I think Maduro has done a good job avoiding all the traps of the West that would have lost them massive international support. And he realized that Maria Corina Machado is so irrelevant that there's no reason for him to lose a massive PR battle by fucking locking her up and going after her. He went after and locked up the people who literally engaged in armed rebellion. Remember the people who was arrested by the CIA? One of the people who was caught peeing their pants when their field operation failed? He would lock those motherfuckers up. And he's like, yeah, you tried to overthrow my government. You tried to assassinate me. Every other government in the history of humanity would have locked your ass up. And then when they lock people up who engage in armed rebellion in the Maduro government, then dumbasses like Bernie Sanders and Zoran Mamdani, they come out like, oh, we condemn the Venezuelan government for their tyranny. The fuck out of here. It's the same shit that Dr. Cornel West, Bernie Sanders, they did that for Alexei Navalny. He was literally caught on tape accepting millions of dollars from the British government to overthrow the Russian government. He was working and he took contracts from the CIA. And then people like Dr. Cornel West and the Social Democrats, they're like, don't you know we got to condemn the Putin government because he suppresses the political opposition. Look at how he treated Alexei Navalny. These people annoy the shit out of me, man, if you guys can't tell. All right, let me get back to this story. I'll just have fun now, talk shit with you guys after my guest left. This is the fictional story they tell now. They say how, look, disguised and in danger, how the Nobel Peace Prize winner escaped Venezuela. And other stories about how she was injured. They're like, don't you know that she was injured while she escaped? She escaped all these military checkpoints without being discovered. We're going to make a movie about this one day. And they are. It's going to be insufferable. Let's see if I can find another article. This is one of the stories I'm mentioning. Man, no guarded. No one's trying to donate to you. Chill, stop. Bro, come on. Here we go. Look. Machado suffered vertebrae fracture on secret trip from Venezuela to Norway. So she went to Norway. So the fact that you're even in Venezuela shows that Maduro is not a dictator. Because can you imagine? Can you imagine if we was like, I already said I don't want to be a dead horse, but if we did the same fucking thing, we'll be rotting in Guantanamo Bay right now. I'll just say that. So now the mainstream media is running this story as if she made this brave voyage to Norway to escape her oppressive regime. And then fucking boomers fucking buy this shit. Who buys this narrative? Bro, the entirety of the corporate media, the MSNBC boomers, the Fox News watching boomers who watch Fox News segments about Maduro. Oh my God, we got to take this tyrant out. What the American polling on Maduro? Because I unapologetically support Nicolas Maduro. That's why the Bernie Sanders left view me as toxic. They smear me the same way they would smear Fred Hampton Jr. if he was alive today. I'm like that crazy, tanky motherfucker. They're like, man, we can't associate with Nick. He always apologized for authoritarian regimes like Maduro. That's why they can't stand me, by the way. Oh yeah, what was I looking? Here it is. This is what I was looking for. Look at this crazy asshole. This crazy asshole. Maria Corina Machado ready to step up as vice president. How convenient for her. What a sacrifice. What a sacrifice for her. Maria Corina Machado ready to step up as vice president. When Venezuela undergoes come on, man. Democratic transition? How is it a democratic transition when you need a foreign government to engage in violent acts to transition power? That's insane. That's insane to say. That's CNN and that's these corporate media outlets doing their job, legitimizing regime change in this crazy psychopath. What do you mean democratic transition? That's insane. That's insane. Yeah, of course, Mag is on board. Let me read some comments. Let's read some comments for a second. Will she also be ready to serve as Miss Universe called upon? Of course, don't you know how brave she is? That's a sacrifice she 100% willing to make. Give her another Nobel Peace Prize. Step up and sell her country to the imperialists. And liberals think she's a hero for that. The Nobel Peace Prize is, and that's why they're being sued by Julian Assange. They lost all credibility because they are an active PR tool for the ruling class, and they're not even apologizing for that. Support your local regime changer, Maduro told me. There's nothing wrong with Americans. Their brain are broken. Like there's nothing wrong with looking at the positives of a society and wanting to model your society off of that. There's nothing wrong with looking at the positives of a society by men. That working class, they did a great job resisting imperialism. Like I look at China, I look at the accomplishments that the Chinese government engaged in and lifting so many people out of poverty. The amount of people who are enthusiastic about the future, like there are polls that show that young Chinese people are excited for the future. Compare that to the United States, where there are polls where people are doomers, they nihilistic about the future. That's why doomsday quotes always pop up. There's always doomsday conspiracy theories. People in America dread what is to come. Meanwhile, the Chinese working class, they're enthusiastic about their government. Like people will call me a Putin toady, but how can you not admire a leader that took Russia, which was a pathetic, failed Soviet state, after the Russian oligarchs sold out their people, and it led to, after the fall of the USSR, my friend Zoya, she writes about this all the time, the Russian people suffered as they embraced neoliberal capitalism, and the West loved having a weak, pathetic Russia that wasn't a player on the world stage. Look at the status of Russia in the late 90s, early 2000s. Putin takes over, becomes the leader, and turns this pathetic Russian state, post-Soviet state, to now a massive geopolitical superpower. He provided healthcare to his people. You know, something that we're fighting for and we don't have in the United States? Provide paid maternity leave to his people. We don't have that in the United States. And if you're a liberal, by the way, you know, you can have an abortion in Russia. You can have that in Missouri. Like they still have wins and victory that was won during the era of the Soviet Union. They were one of the first pro-choice states, and they have many progressive wins and victories that came from the Soviet era that Putin is still providing his people while defending their country against the NATO fascists and the Western fascists in the West. That's why, in a nutshell, guys, if you don't agree with my opinion, it doesn't matter, because this is what the Russian people feel. That's why 80% of the Russian people support Putin. That's why he has a sky-high approval rating. And then in order to cope with that, you have people in the West who share unfounded conspiracy theories. They will say stuff like, well, don't you know that he faked his internal polling? That even though we have Western independent sources that does polling that show the same result, They're like, well, it's fake news. Don't you know that Putin forces people to say that we support the Russian government? Because if you don't say it in a poll, they would track you down and murder you, even though the United States and Israel murders more people than the Russian government, but we're not going to talk about that. Don't you know that Putin would arrest anyone who speaks out against his government, even though the United States arrests way more people than China and Russia, despite having less people than China? You guys see how Americans just believe anything they are told? That's why like they are taught reflectively that they must hate the leaders of other ruling classes, because the reason why we failed to achieve revolution and achieve material victories for the working class in the United States is not because the American people failed, and not because we rejected socialism and embraced anti-communism. It's because the ruling classes of all countries are uniquely evil. Every single ruling class. Every single member of the working class is the same. Even the members of the working class who betray their country. And that's what Jody Brosh explained. That's the Trotskyist failure in geopolitical analysts. They like every single member of the working class is the same. Every ruling class is evil. Okay, what about the mass majority of the Russian people who support their government? And the Alexei Navalny working class, the people who are part of the working class who support Navalny, they are not equal to the patriots who are fighting against the NATO West who want Russia dead. So the Trotskyists believe that every working class person in Penn is equal. We know that's not true. We know that's not true. And if you're rejecting the imperialist mindset, and this is what I believe as someone who still feel like I got a lot of obligation to overthrow the will of our capitalist class, is we haven't accomplished shit in our own government. We don't have healthcare in our own government. So it's a complete waste of time for us to be judging other ruling classes and having this belief that we know better than other people, the working classes of other people. Because there'll be a lot of Trotskyists or anarchists who will condemn the Chinese Communist Party. Like, don't you know the Chinese Communist Party in China betrayed socialism? Don't you know they betrayed socialism? We know more than the working class in China. Even though the Chinese people vastly support Xi Jinping, once again, 80-90%. So isn't it, and this is where I come from, isn't it imperialist minded for you as a Westerner who haven't accomplished shit in terms of successful revolution for you to overwrite the will and think you know better than the Chinese people, than the Russian people? I will look at countries who we support, who our government wants us to support, who are hated by their government. When have you guys ever seen me undercut the will of a population? Like I explained before, how you got the Venezuelan people who are rallying behind Nicolas Maduro. But when you look at the UK people hate their government. The German people hate their government. But despite the fact that the German people, the UK people, European society as a whole has a low opinion of their government, you have Germany that they still have a BlackRock prime minister who's in charge. The Congress in the United States has a 15% approval rating, according to recent polling. Meanwhile, the incumbents in the United States win at around a 99% rate. The incumbents win all the time. Whoever is backed by big capital, you can predict who's going to win an election in the United States at around a 90% rate, based on 98% rate based on that. But you have the nerve to critique other democracies? This is the definition of capitalist dictatorship. The Jewish supremacists who openly brag, I'm going to use that as a transition, who openly brag about ruling our country. I do want to get to our last story. I'm kind of just ranting now. I'm making up for the fact that I didn't go live on Monday. I had other shit going on, man, to be honest. I didn't go live on Monday, so I want to make up for a longer stream. It is the hard, and I also kind of want to wait till Trump go live, but I think that's going to be too late. It is the heart of U.S. policy to use fascism to preserve capitalism while claiming to save democracy from communism. Based as Michael Parenti. Let me tell you guys something. All the Noam Chomsky fans, they're in fucking shambles. We told you motherfuckers about Michael Prenti, man. I was always on the side of Michael Prenti over Noam Chomsky. I told you I'm more of a tanky. Like, tankies fuck with Michael Prenti's. Beta fucking social democrats fuck with Noam Chomsky. Now we saw Noam Chomsky super involved with fucking Epstein. Let's see if I find the pictures. Because Noam Chomsky fans, they are fucking in shambles over it. Look at this. Look at beta male Noam Chomsky. Actually, I'm not a big Noam Chomsky hater, but when you become more educated in Marxism and you understand anti-communism, you got to understand that Noam Chomsky largely existed as an anti-communist intellectual figure to lead the left into an anti-communist position. Now, he had good analysis on a lot of things, guys. His analysis on media was amazing, but he condemned communist revolutions. He took the anti-USSR position. Michael Prenti was always there to stand on the side of the working class. You know what I mean? To be fair, I'm not 100% Noam Chomsky hater because he's not as bad as all the other white boys. But he partied with Jeffrey Epstein. That's not a good look. Look at this. You gotta try to hang out with me tonight? I think I'm hanging out for a bit. Why not? But Chomsky Prenti. I've always preferred I told you guys Kwame Ture is the guy who he's the style I jack whenever you guys see me give speeches, which I'm much better at giving speeches than I am doing live streams. Live streams are mostly awkward. But I told you I unapologetically try to jack the style and swagger in politics of Kwame Ture. Kwame Ture, Michael Prenti, obviously Fred Hampton, we call ourselves the Fred Hampton leftists, Malcolm X. I'm blanking on a lot of names right now too, but these was my guiding lights in terms of my politics right now. Yeah, Chomsky is anti-communist like AOC. Yeah, I've been having fun going off in spaces recently. I've been talking to a lot of my tanky communist comrades recently in spaces. There was a lot of big accounts. They invited me to do spaces, and I was sitting in space with all those big accounts, and that shit was so fucking boring, bro. I'm like, I remember I went off for like 2 minutes about something. It was a long time ago. And then they just moved on. There was like no passion in there. That's why I don't do spaces like that for real, because everyone just give a speech like they're a fucking politician. And I'm like, why y'all acting like a politician? Why y'all not talking like normal people? But I've been doing a lot of spaces with I like hanging out with like smaller communist accounts. Let me tell you guys this. I'm kind of just hanging out now. What's poppin', Zoya? Zoya's love, Zoya's life. Nothing. Oh yeah, the yellow lecture. The yellow lecture is fucking legendary. So we just hanging out. Michael Prenti, yellow. Let's see if I can find it. The yellow lecture is fucking legendary. Come on, bro. There's no way that Twitter purrs all the videos.
It's time, ladies and gentlemen.
Let's watch this. This from the yellow lecture, the legendary yellow lecture. Let me get my shit together as we prepare for the next part of the stream. Yeah, we chill tonight. We doing a longer stream tonight. I'm making up for not going live on Monday. And I have energy. I have energy tonight, so let's do it. Camila was bass. Zoya, we definitely gonna cut a clip of Camila in our interview. We have my homies from Midwestern Marks. You know, it's good to have my tanky comrades joining me. You guys know I love talking tankies. So my tanky homies from Midwestern Marks, they joined me on Friday. We got a lot of bangers coming up. And next year is going to be big for us. Next year is going to be big for the channel. Like, we just started here for real. Oh, yeah, I got my tanky brother, Chris Halele, who joined from DDG. He was put on the kill list for Ukraine. I'm so jealous of him. Why can't they ever put me on a damn kill list? All right, let's listen to this. I wish I could make the screen bigger. What the fuck is up with this screen? Let's listen to it.
Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, it's time.
I'm gonna take a break while you do this.
What's a communist? What does a communist do? that is so dangerous? Is it the land reform program, where they took all that massive land owned by those few rich compradors and gave it out to the people who were starved for land? Is it the farm co-ops that they're setting up? Is it the community industries and the public work programs to create jobs for people who have been chronically unemployed? Is it the food program, a ration of beans and rice for every kid in Nicaragua so that nobody, no matter how poor that country is, they're all getting fed? Is it having the lowest infant mortality rate in Central America despite earthquake and civil war and foreign invasion and attack and embargo? It is those things in some degree. It is creating a competing social order. It is people, it is those who have been downtrodden. It has been those who have been used as fodder in the capital accumulation process, now claiming back the process of production, claiming back their own land, claiming back their own flag, their own dignity, and saying this country is going to be for us and not for you anymore, gringo. And that's the communist program, and that's what communists are. If communists, if we leftists, if we Marxists, if we revolutionaries, if we progressives, if we all we want is to hunger for power, then why do we side with the powerless? Then why don't we toady up to power? Why don't we take the road of the Henry Kissingers and the Daniel Patrick Moynahans and the Ziggy Brzezinskis and the Eugene Rostows and the McGeorge Bundys who toady up and mouth for power? And we on the left don't do that. We stand out in the rain. We stand out on the picket lines. We put our jobs on the line. We risk our careers. In many cases, we even risk our physical safety and our lives in all sorts of countries. If it's power we want, why do we take such a circuitous route?
Imagine having this much power. Imagine just being this based. I told you, I'm trying to get on this level, man. I'm trying to get on this level. I'm working on it, man. I'm still a young blood putting some work out here, but I'm trying to get on this level, my friends. This is why, even though it cost me YouTube subs and that kind of stuff, I will never apologize for defending communism and class warfare. I want to see this one. Let's watch one more.
So it's not true.
Let's listen to this, then we can move on.
So it's not true that the missiles just build up blindly on both sides. They're caught in this irrational race. That it's just something in man's nature for war. I loved those songs, but there was something about the politics in one of them that didn't ring right with me. That it's just people caught up in this meanness and killing for killing, and when are we going to reach our senses? That's not true. That's not the way it works. It's not something that comes in here. If it was something in our nature, why would they have to draft us? Why would they have to use press gangs and drag us in?
Hey, bro, imagine spitting on this.
Hermann Göring said, nobody, no poor Slav wants a war, not even a German, not even a German. What does he want to sit in a stinking trench with the smell of blood, listening to the screams of his buddies lying there, quivering with cold and terror? Where does he want to be? He wants to be in his home. He wants to be on his farm. He wants to be with his family. No poor Slav wants a war. You got to drag him out and dress him up and beat the drums and wave the flag.
Imagine being that powerful. Just casually being that powerful. We're chilling tonight. I appreciate the super chat. Comrade Nick, I'm glad you're on YouTube more. Yeah, we're going to have a big year next year. We're working on our own projects at RBN, kind of decentralizing a bit. And me and Zoya, we have big plans for the channel next year. Just know that for sure. Our problem is not just the elite in America. The American people have a deep-seated hatred of their poor, so much so they wish death on the homeless. So yeah, that's the anti-communism. Like, there's capitalist societies in other countries, but the United States working class is uniquely harmed because the scourge of anti-communism, and you guys see, that's why I don't have any interest in talking to people who are anti-communist. You don't have to be a communist to be part of my social circle. You guys seen that. But I draw the line at anti-communists because they will be there to stab us in the back. They are the ones who have the hatred of the homeless. They're the ones who blame the homeless themselves instead of the landlord class, instead of the capitalist class, instead of the ruling class who invest more on anti-homeless infrastructure than solving the problem of homelessness. So the anti-communism that came from the Cold War McCarthyite era has done tremendous damage to the working class in this country. Anti-communism destroyed the American working class. But thank God, Gen X and the boomers are quite literally the last generation that has this anti-communist bullshit. You know what I mean? And that's shown by poll after poll after poll, where even young Republicans, they're like, man, socialism doesn't sound bad. I'm not telling you guys they're not Marxist theory reading Marxists, but they're not repellent towards it no more, which is a good sign. Well, so let me look at the timeline. I want to show some more chat. I want to talk to you guys a bit. Let's talk a little bit tonight. Oh yeah, there was I saw this earlier from Medea Benjamin. Look at this. Here's a Venezuela update. I'm gonna see if I can find some more Venezuelan updates. It's pathetic. Only 3 Republicans. Look at this. So they had a vote in the House to limit the presidential authority to wage war against Venezuela, and only 3 Republicans voted for it. One Democrat voted nay, bro. Yeah, of course, like that would be political suicide if Democrats didn't vote for this. But look at this: the Republican Party is going to go down with it too, because the majority of people, American people, don't support this. So only 3 Republicans: Thomas Massey, Bacon, and Marjorie Taylor Greene, the appointed babyface now. All right, so I want to get to this West Bank story. Let's see, there is more super chats that came in. I think. How do you cope with Russia being an Israel ally? My position on Russia and China trading with Israel is that that's a result of our failure to end the Zionist project. It's not Russia or China's job to end the scourge of Zionism. Zionism is enabled and funded and created because of global capitalist empire that we are responsible for holding accountable and ending. Russia, and I never pretended, they don't pretend, no one pretend that Russia is a revolutionary state. No one pretends that China is a revolutionary state. But what they're doing, they're not willing to interfere and engage in imperialist actions in a region where they don't have massive global sovereignty over. And when it comes to the Middle East, you have a lot of these Middle Eastern countries that Russia engages in trade with, that are ran by Muslim Zionists who want to normalize relations with Israel. So does Russia up in and destroy their relationships with these Muslim Zionist countries in the Middle East because the people in the Middle East fail to hold their ruling class accountable? So I'm not saying it's not a legitimate criticism if you're like, oh man, I criticize any state that does business with the state of Israel, but I take a revolutionary mindset where it's upon us to end the Zionist regime. When you have states like Russia and China, who's already under massive pressure by the imperialist regime itself, the NATO establishment, you can't go engage in blockades with someone like a massive ally like Israel. That would destabilize global economic trade. And there are a lot of people who don't seem to understand geopolitics who get upset when they see China. Like, why don't China end all trade with Israel? Which, once again, I understand why you will be upset, especially if you're a Palestinian, if China is engaged in trade with Israel. But you got to understand their mindset as a non-interventionist state and how they have a very important role in order to maintain the stability of international markets. So Israel is a state that is deeply cherished and protected by the ruling class in Europe and the United States. So what do you guys think the economic consequences will be if China engaged in a massive blockade and they refuse to trade with Israel? You will have Germany, you have France, you have the United States. They will respond. Liberals freaked out about Trump and his tariff war against China. Will you guys understand how batshit crazy the Zionist ruling class would go and what they would do if China blocked all trade to Israel? It will be deeply destabilizing to international global trade. And the second question I have for the people who are deeply critical of China for this is, where does it stop? Like, if you're deciding your trade based on the foreign policy of other countries, where does that end? Do you end trade with Europe if you're China? Remember, China is the largest trading partner of Europe now. I think they're the largest trading partner of Europe. So do you stop trading with Europe because the EU is directly funding the genocide in Sudan? I brought this up before. The EU is providing weapons to the UAE, which funds the genocidal RSF in Sudan. So the EU is directly complicit in genocide, not only in Gaza, but they are complicit in genocide in Africa as well. So does China stop trading with Israel because of the genocide they're committing in Gaza, but continue trading with Europe because despite them funding genocide in Sudan? Why will you stop trading for Gaza but not Sudan? Then if you want to be consistent and end all trade, because you're like, all right, any state that commits genocide or commit war crimes, we will end trade with. And remember, you're China. You're the biggest trading partner of the world right now. You end trade relations with Europe. You end trade relations with the United States. You end trade. Remember, this will completely upend the international economic order, and China views themselves as being a steward of it. You don't want to. It will harm the Chinese working class, and that's the working class that the Chinese government is obligated towards. So why? And if you want to criticize this, that's okay. But I understand, because why would you sacrifice the quality of life for the working class that you are supposed to provide for? Because the working class in the West failed to hold Zionism accountable. So Americans can't even make the sacrifice of canceling their Disney subscription. You have leftists staking their ass on OnlyFans. The OnlyFans which directly funds the IDF. You have Americans who can't stop funding OnlyFans. You have people on the left who are on OnlyFans, which is crazy to me. You have them watching Disney, all these Zionist outlets. They're like, oh, we got to support the Starbucks union. Fuck the Starbucks union. I want Starbucks to die because Starbucks fund the genocidal regime. Meanwhile, you guys talking about organizing a union for Starbucks. That's the way you oppose the genocidal regime? Organizing workers that work for a genocidal company? That's your contribution towards fighting Zionism? And then you think that you have the right to criticize China or Russia for not making sacrifices? The same sacrifices that you're not even willing to make. Do you guys understand why I don't engage in that? And once again, I'm not mad. I'm not telling you guys not to criticize these states. I'm just telling you guys why I don't. Because to me, as an American, it's absurd. If you're a Palestinian, you have the right to be angry at everybody. If you're a Palestinian, you should be like, fuck China, fuck Russia, fuck everybody. But if you're American, who the fuck are you? What the fuck have we done to hold our government accountable? What sacrifices have you made in your daily life to believe that you have the right to demand that the Chinese government sacrifice the quality of their working class because you failed? That's my analysis of it. I'm not saying that you shouldn't have criticism, but to answer this question, that's how I operate. I think it's inherently imperialist minded, and that's how Americans have been brainwashed to be imperialist minded, right? I appreciate you gassing me up, my friend. Nick, I hope you know you're one of the most brilliant political analysis on YouTube. I'm trying to level my game up, my friends. In a sane world, you'd be doing thug crossing numbers. That's why I tell myself so I can sleep at night. Like I be texting Zoya. I'm like, man, the fucking algorithm, the fucking piece of shit. If the algorithm wasn't holding me down, I would be pulling Jackson Hinkle numbers. I would be pulling fucking Tucker Carlson cannons. That's why I be telling myself now. I'm like, let's be real, man. I gotta step my game up. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, I gotta step my game up. As much as I want to tell myself that, as much as I want to tell myself that it's just the algorithm, I just gotta take responsibility. That's what I believe, and I try to improve my game every single time I go live. Every time, like I'll leave live sometime, and I'll be texting Zoya, and I'll be having a meltdown because I'll be like, man, this stream was horrible. I'll be like, I'm very critical of my own work, extremely critical. And I'll be having meltdowns sometimes. Then I'll read the comments and they were like, Nick, you killed it, man. Good job. Like, all right. I guess that wasn't horrible. But I take this very seriously. And as much as I want to blame the algorithms, I know I gotta get better. I gotta make it so my analysis is like 2 to 3 times better than the most popular streamer. Like whoever the most, like Hassan Piker, Jackson, Tucker, all these people, like Sabby's up there as well now. Sabby's pulling massive numbers. My friend Do Distance. I love these people, but they killing it. I gotta make it so my analysis is like 3 times better. It's hard though. But those are the cards I've been dealt. I'm supposed to be doing this West Bank story. I'm still gonna do the West Bank story. I'm gonna try to do longer streams. I'm chilling tonight. All right, let me read some chat. Sorry, I was Nick has 10 out of 10 content. Nick, your analysis is already on point. I'm working on it, bro. I'm working on it. I gotta step my games up, man. I gotta step my games up. Like I get those reps sometimes. I learned a long time ago. I'm like, man, as much as I want to blame the algorithm, I gotta take responsibility. I gotta get better. Because I'm a martial artist. That's how I approach things as an athlete. That's how I approach things when I play football, basketball, when I train Muay Thai, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, boxing. You gotta take it upon yourself, man. I'm not liberal. We take personal responsibility. I'm still gonna cover this damn Israel story. I'm way off top. I'm way off topic now. We just fucking doing it live tonight. I didn't go live on Monday, so I feel like I can make it for a longer stream tonight. And I can cut some of these segments up. I'm definitely gonna cut the Camila segment into a segment on its own. When I do this West Bank story that I know most people probably won't see, I'm gonna cut that one up as well. Nick, you're a Super Saiyan. I'm trying to go on that ultra instinct level, to be honest. You guys know I got a lot of funk from Tucker Carlson, man. I did Tucker Carlson so much. I think his foreign policy is pretty good though. I'd be nice to say that. Like, I'm not a big fan of these anti-communist people, man. I have done many Tucker Carlson diss tracks in my time. That's for sure. This is what I'm waiting for. But my problem is I don't think he's gonna get immediately into it because I think the speech started in 10 minutes. I can't believe I actually stalled because I wanted to cover it, but I realized that the Trump speech wasn't happening until like 8. And I'm like, fuck. I guess I don't think I can cover it, but I think I can stall. I think I can just hang out with you guys for a bit. I still got this Gaza story. I got like 2 segments that I can do. Oh yeah, by the way, I need some help fundraising for this new mic. I'm working on my audio as well. You guys have no idea how demoralized I was because I spend big money, at least for me, because I live on the edges, my friend. I spent over $100 on this mic that you guys saw. I used this mic like a few weeks ago. Spent like $125 on this motherfucker, and it was complete trash. I was like, hey guys, how my mic sound? You guys like, bro, this sound horrible. Bro, I'm so fucking heartbroken. I spent $130 for this fucking trash, and the audio sound worse than my damn computer did. So someone recommended me a mic that costs like $300 because they're like, bro, if you want your audio to sound good, you gotta spend $300. It's like, bro, you guys out of your fucking mind. Yeah, that's expensive. Guys, you remember that mic I tried a few weeks ago? That shit cost $120, and then you guys were like, "Yeah, that shit is echoing. That shit was trash." So I'm heartbroken. That's why I'm plugging my Patreon. If you guys enjoy these streams, if you want to help me go really Super Saiyan, if you guys want to help me raise my game to Sabian them level, supporting my Patreon. If I can get a nice boost on Patreon, I can probably afford a new mic next year. So even with a small donation, I'll need a fundraise for that. I'm gonna use this to transition to my Israel story. We had the Trump speech. I actually found a way to start. I think I made it. I think the Trump speech is going to start soon. It's essentially a speech where he's doing damage control because Donald Trump approval ratings is in the toilet, so he's doing his speech today. But before his speech starts, I'm gonna quickly throw in this West Bank segment. So Zoya, my friend Zoya's love, Zoya's life. Really is Zoya's love, Zoya's life. Love my friend Zoya. We need to raise $300, but I know that's a big ask of my working class audience. So I'll eventually use my Patreon money, but I just need you guys to support my Patreon. Hopefully I get an additional 300 on there and I can improve my audio situation. Yeah, maybe we gotta do official fundraiser on it. So Zoya, we're gonna start a segment, the West Bank segment here, because I want to show you guys this funny ass video. Why the hell are all these videos? Oh, this one's bigger. This is a cool trick on how you expose. I don't know this is the X thing, but all these videos are like super small today. This is how you expose a CIA color revolution back protest. I think these are like free Taiwan people or some shit like that. So this guy comes in and exposes the whole operation. I think this is glorious.
Free China! Free China! Free Shanghai! Free Beijing! Free Palestine! What? Hey, my friend, it's okay. Okay.
Saying that you can immediately expose a color revolution because he was going around. If you guys had a hard time hearing or seeing it, he was like in the CCP, and they were like, "Yeah, free China, free Beijing." They all cheered, free Palestine. Oh, they were like, "Bro, if I say that cash is not gonna that check is not gonna cash." They gonna immediately fire your ass. They knew their CIA USAID handlers. Let's watch this again. This man's an absolute legend. This is one small trick to expose color revolution.
Free China! Free China! Free Shanghai! Free Beijing! Free Palestine! What? My friend, it's okay. Okay. Thank you. Hey.
All right, get out of there.
Free China, man. What happened? It's okay.
They knew if they said that, their paycheck would have been immediately reduced, canceled, fired, laid off immediately. So they hosted CIA color revolutions all over the world, and it used to be successful, but this new generation, Gen Z, and I'm not talking about just our Gen Z. Gen Z around the world has been amazing at snuffing this bullshit out now. All over Africa, they had the Pan-African movement that's setting fire, which is why Ibrahim Traore is a African icon. You had the China diaspora that's recognizing this. This is why like everyone in Russia recognized what Alexei Navalny was. Like we all see through this shit now, man. Like, this is obvious Zionist infiltrated global protests to implement Zionist-friendly governments all over the world. Like, our friends at DD Geopolitics did a great job covering the Isaac Accords, where they were overthrowing Latin American governments and installing Javier Milei Zionist-friendly Maria Corina Machado leaders who are bankrupting their government and selling their people out. So there's this massive campaign that Zionists are going through right now to establish Jewish supremacy in a time where the world are rebelling against them. And I don't know if many people in the United States on the left realize that the state of Israel is still engaging in massive killing of Palestinians, not only in Gaza, but in the West Bank. So I want to cover this, and we might cover some Trump speech live tonight as well. So I'm going to make this segment a little bit shorter. But this is CNN trying their best to passively explain that Israel is engaging in a massive invasion of Palestine in the West Bank, murdering Palestinians and building settlements. UN and Palestinians warn West Bank demolitions could permanently displace hundreds. West Bank demolitions done by who? Look at this headline. UN and Palestinians warn West Bank demolitions. The headline you should be saying here is that Israel is engaging in a massive invasion and land theft of Palestine. They're engaging in massive violations of ceasefires in Gaza. Whenever they talk about the Gaza ceasefire that they break, they say, oh, well, they're testing the ceasefire. Y'all see the passive language? They will say a Palestinian was murdered. Who murdered them? The Israeli state. Like, who's engaging in the West Bank demolitions? And this passive language has consequences. Because honestly, like the DSA, Zohar Mamdani left, they're willing to work with Zionists because they convinced themselves that the genocide is over. No, Israel has never stopped. Look at Germany, the pathetic Nazi state. Germany condemns Israeli plan to build over 750 housing units across West Bank. Look, Israel just plans to build housing units. That's a weird way to say massive invasion and theft of land. Oh, they're just building housing units. Imagine how America would feel if we just had Russia just building Russian land and housing units in the United States. You think there would be just this casual explanation of it? And despite the fact that Israel violated the ceasefire hundreds of times, murdered hundreds of Palestinians since the ceasefire, and they voted to annex the West Bank, you still have Germany, the Nazi state, that's going to resume arm exports to the state of Israel. You guys see how the ceasefire was always complete nonsense? The ceasefire was never real. Meanwhile, the United States left is moving, and they are operating in a way as if the Zionist regime was brought to heel by their activism. Do the Zohar Mamdani left realize this is why we see this as a betrayal when you hire Zionists in the middle of these genocides? When DSA, people who call themselves socialists, they vote to protect Hakeem Jeffries in his job as he votes to send more weapons to Israel in the latest military packages. Here's from Amnesty International. Resumption of arm transfers to Israel is reckless, unlawful, and risk complicity in Israel's international crime. You don't fucking say, huh? You don't fucking say, Amnesty. So this is still going on. And people are like rehabilitating the Democratic Party. I see Crystal Ball like, oh, we got a primary on the Zionist Democrats. No, this part, any party that engage and support the state of Israel, like all the Democrats do, this party should be dead. The American people, we need to unite to take out the Zionist scum. Rights group decries Germany lifting arms embargo on Israel. So they pretend that the genocide is over. They pretend that Israel is nice again, and then they continue to arm the state of Israel. Oh, so I think Trump should be live soon. Of course he's late. Yeah, I don't know if I'm. He better hurry the hell up. Here's Ursula von der Leyen. I love DD geopolitics. Our friend Sarah, they always in the lab cooking. Unelected dictator Ursula von der Leyen. She is an unelected dictator. Who elected her in the EU? But this is what she had to say, and then I think Trump might start speaking here soon. I just checked the stream and they're running late, so let's watch this. Here we get the Trump.
Jewish history is European history. Jewish culture is European culture. And Jewish life must be able to flourish for Europe to flourish fully. This is something which is enshrined in our European Union. And this work starts with safety and security, particularly for places of worship.
Now you guys see why I'm rooting for Russia and China unapologetically. Here she just said the quiet part out loud how Europe is essentially ran by Jewish supremacists. Jewish history is European history. So why don't you guys take in the fucking Zionist scumbag? I think Germany should have took the burden of taking these Jewish supremacists. Why did Palestine have to pay for your sins? Like you guys say, I don't see Trump speaking yet. I might watch for this. I might keep this up since I'm live tonight. The reason why I'm going live long tonight is because I would be like, I'll be following this speech anyway. I don't see it. This is supposed to be one of the live streams. Let's see if I find another live stream. I literally checked 2 live streams. I don't see him speaking yet. Oh, here's one. I see MSNBC. Oh yeah, I need to find a stream. Why this stream I have is full of shit. Here's Fox News.
Prisoners,
There it
terrorists,
is.
and above all, foreign nations, which took advantage of us at levels never seen before. They flooded your cities and towns with illegal aliens. They decimated They decimated your hard-earned savings. They indoctrinated your children with hate
This is
for
what I'm worried
America.
about. I'm thinking not to talk about
Really,
Venezuela.
they just released a level of violent felons that we had never seen to prey on innocent. They caused war. They caused mayhem. They caused a horrible situation all over the globe. But now you have a president who fights for the law-abiding, hardworking people of our country, the ones who make this nation run, who make this nation work. And after just 1 year, we have achieved more than anyone could have imagined. Starting on day one, I took immediate action to stop the invasion of our southern border. For the past 7 months, 0 illegal aliens have been allowed into our country, a feat which everyone said was absolutely impossible. Do you remember when Joe Biden said that he needed Congress to pass legislation to help close the border? He was always blaming Congress and everyone else. As it turned out, we didn't need legislation. We just needed a new
Are you going to do anything for the American
We
working
inherited
class?
the worst border anywhere in the world, and we quickly turned it into the strongest border in the history of our country. In other words, in a
You guys
few
notice
short
he's not talking about
months,
anything
we
he's doing
went
for the
from
working class of the
worst
United States.
to best. We're deporting criminals, restoring safety to our most dangerous cities. Just take a look at Washington, D.C. It's at levels of safety that we've never seen before. And they decimated the bloodthirsty foreign drug cartels. We did that all by ourselves with our people, and we're so proud of it because they were poisoning and destroying our population. Drugs brought in by ocean and by sea are now down 94%. We have broken the grip of sinister woke radicals in our schools, and control over those schools is back now in the hands of our great and loving states. where education belongs. After rebuilding the United States military in my first term, and with the addition we are adding right now, we have the most powerful military anywhere in the world, and it's not even close. I've restored American strength, settled 8 wars in 10 months, destroyed the Iran nuclear threat, and ended the war in Gaza, bringing for the first time in 3,000 years peace to the Middle East, and secured the release of the hostages, both living and dead. Here at home, we're bringing our economy back from the brink of ruin. The last administration and their allies in Congress looted our treasury for trillions of dollars, driving up prices and everything at levels never seen before. I am bringing those high prices down and bringing them down very fast. Let's look at the facts. Under the Biden administration, car prices rose 22%, and in many states, 30% or more. Gasoline rose 30 to 50%. Hotel rates rose 37%. Airfares rose 31%. Now, under our leadership, they are all coming down and coming down fast. Democrat politicians also sent the cost of groceries soaring, but we are solving that too. The price of a Thanksgiving turkey was down 33% compared to the Biden last year. The price of eggs is down 82% since March, and everything else is falling rapidly. And it's not done yet, but boy, are we making progress. Nobody can believe what's going on. Here are just some of the efforts that we have underway. You will see in your wallets and bank accounts in the new year.
So he's doing the same thing Joe Biden did.
Setting falling incomes, our policies are boosting take-home pay at a historic pace.
So just quickly, Joe Biden lost last election because he was trying to convince Americans that they wasn't feeling pain. The everything was just great, man. You don't believe your lying eye. Just believe these bullshit numbers I made up. Let's see how that's going to work for you.
Biden, real wages plummeted by $3,000. Under Trump, the typical factory worker is seeing a wage increase of $1,300. For construction workers, it's $1,800. For miners, we're bringing back clean, beautiful coal. It's $3,300. And for the first time in years, wages are rising much faster than inflation. Remember that. The wages, just look at it. Wages are going up much faster than inflation.
He sounds just like Joe Biden.
Very importantly, there are more people working today than at any time in American history, and 100% of all jobs created since I took office have been in the private sector. Think of that. 100% of all jobs have been.
Meanwhile, over half of America
rather than government, which is the only way to make a country powerful and great. This historic trend will continue. Already, I've secured a record-breaking $18 trillion of investment into the United States, which means jobs, wage increases, growth, factory openings, and far greater national security. Much of this success has been accomplished by tariffs. My favorite word, tariffs, which for many decades have been used successfully by other countries against us, but not anymore. Companies know that if they build in America, there are no tariffs, and that's why they're coming home to the USA in record numbers.
You have to bail out the farmers,
They're building factories and plants at levels we haven't seen. AI, automobiles. We're doing what nobody thought was even possible, not even remotely possible. There has never, frankly, been anything like it. 1 year ago, our country was dead. We were absolutely dead. Our country was ready to fail, totally failed. Now, we're the hottest country anywhere in the world. And that's said by every single leader that I've spoken to over the last 5 months. Next year, you will also see the results of the largest tax cuts in American history that were really accomplished through our great, big, beautiful bill, perhaps the most sweeping legislation ever passed in Congress. We wrapped 12 different bills up into one beautiful bill. That includes no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security for our great seniors. Under these cuts, many families will be saving between $11,000 and $20,000 a year And next spring is projected to be the largest tax refund season of all time. Because of tariffs, along with the just passed One Big Beautiful Bill, tonight I am also proud to announce that more than 1,450,000, think of this, 1,450,000 military service members will receive a special we call Warrior Dividend before Christmas. So Warrior Dividend in honor of our nation's founding in 1776. We are sending every soldier $1,776. Think of that. And the checks are already on the way. Nobody understood that one until about 30 minutes ago. We made a lot more money than anybody thought because of tariffs, and the bill helped us along. Nobody deserves it more than our military. And I say congratulations to everybody. And by the way, we now have record enlistment in our military. And last year we had among the worst recruitment numbers in our military's history. What a difference a year makes. In addition, I'm doing what no politician of either party has ever done. Standing up
he trying to pay the soldiers off
to dramatically reduce the price of prescription drugs. I negotiated directly with the drug companies and foreign nations.
Look, all the soldiers
taking advantage of our country for many decades to slash prices on drugs and pharmaceuticals by as much as 400, 500, and even 600%. In other words, your drug costs will be plummeting downward. And I used the threat of tariffs to get foreign countries who would never have done it to pay the cost of this giant dollar reduction. They stopped ripping us off, and it began as of 4 days ago. There has never been anything like this in the history of our country. Drugs have only gone up, but now they'll be going down by numbers never conceived possible. It's called Most Favored Nation. And no president has ever had the courage or ability to get this done until now. The first of these unprecedented price reductions will be available starting in January through a new website, TrumpRx.gov. And these big price cuts will greatly reduce the cost of health care. I'm also taking on the gigantic health insurance companies that have gotten rich on billions of dollars of money that should go directly to the people. The money should go to the people. That's you. So they can buy their own health insurance, which will give far better benefits at much lower costs. It will be far better health insurance. The current Unaffordable Care Act was created to make insurance companies rich. It was bad health care at much too high a cost. And you see that now in the steep increase in premiums being demanded by the Democrats, and they are demanding those increases, and it's their fault. It is not the Republicans' fault. It's the Democrats' fault. It's the Unaffordable Care Act, and everybody knew it. Again, I want the money to go directly to the people so you can buy your own health care. You'll get much better health care at a much lower price. The only losers will be insurance companies that have gotten rich, and the Democrat Party, which is totally controlled by those same insurance companies. They will not be happy, but that's okay with me because you, the people, are finally going to be getting great health care at a lower cost. Another major focus is the cost of energy. For years, the radical left Democrats exploited the green energy scam as an excuse to funnel many billions of dollars into their own massive slush funds as their energy restrictions drastically drove up prices, and they drove them up.
Talk about foreign policy.
Levels. Electricity costs surged 30 to 100% under Biden, and the typical family lost $5,000 to $10,000 in higher energy costs. Think of that, $5,000 to $10,000 you lost. On day one, I declared a national energy emergency. Gasoline is now under $2.50 a gallon in much of the country. In some states, it, by the way, just hit $1.99 a gallon. And within the next 12 months, we will have opened 1,600 new electrical generating plants.
Actually listen to this guy?
It's a record that
I will
won't
never
be
get
beaten by practically, I would say, by anybody, or certainly not very soon. Prices on electricity and everything else will fall dramatically. The Democrat inflation disaster, again, the worst in the history of our country, also robbed millions of Americans of home ownership and indeed the American dream. The yearly cost of a typical new mortgage increased by $15,000 under Democrat rule. In 11 months, we've already gotten that annual cost down by $3,000, and it's coming down a lot lower. Wait till you see. The numbers are going to be shocking. And I'll soon announce our next chairman of the Federal Reserve, someone who believes in lower interest rates by a lot, and mortgage payments will be coming down even further. Early the new year, and you will see this, in the new year, I will announce some of the most aggressive housing reform plans in American history. A major factor in driving up housing costs was the colossal border invasion. We have never been invaded. This is the worst thing that, frankly, in my opinion, the worst thing that the Biden administration did to our country is the invasion at the border. The last administration and their allies in Congress brought in millions and millions of migrants and gave them taxpayer-funded housing, while your
blame the immigrants. The immigrants are the reason why our cities
over 60% of growth in the rental market came from foreign migrants.
Immigrants are the reason why
millions of illegal aliens stole American jobs and flooded emergency rooms, getting free health care and education paid for by you, the American taxpayer. They also increased the cost of law enforcement by numbers so high that they are not even to be mentioned. For the first time in 50 years, we are now seeing reverse migration as migrants go back home, leaving more housing and more jobs for Americans. In the year before my election,
he shouldn't come here. America's
creation of jobs was going to foreign migrants. Since I took office, 100% of all net job creation has gone to American-born citizens, 100%. In the end, government either serves the productive, patriotic, hardworking American citizen, or it serves those who break the laws.
Bro, you just care about serving Israel.
Power and profit.
You haven't done anything for the American people.
Our nation.
You literally just care about Israel.
Where Somalians have taken over the economics of the state and have stolen billions and billions of dollars from Minnesota, and indeed
I stand with
the
state of Somalia,
America. We're going to put an end.
They have the right to defend
themselves. Before my election, the vast majority of good and decent Americans were forced to watch as corrupt politicians plundered the halls of power, exploited our taxpayers, and pillaged every system that makes civilized society function. But not anymore, and you see that every day, not anymore. We're putting America first, and we are making America great again. Very simple. We are making America great again. Tonight, after 11 months, our border is secure. Inflation is stopped. Wages are up. Prices are down. Our nation is strong. America is respected, and our country is back, stronger than ever before. We're poised for an economic boom, the likes of which the world has never seen. Soon we will host the World Cup and the Olympics.
I'm in way too deep.
But most importantly, we will celebrate the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. There could be no more fitting tribute to this epic milestone than to complete the comeback of America that began just 1 year ago. When the world looks at us next year, let them see a nation that is loyal to its citizens, faithful to its workers, confident to its identity, certain to its destiny, and the envy of the entire globe. We are respected again like we have never been respected before. To each and every one of you, have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Oh, thank God.
Bless you all.
Oh, thank God. Holy shit, it's over. Holy shit. Dude, that was the worst promo I've ever heard in my life. Like, if we're going to compare that to a WWE promo, that's the worst promo we ever heard. Like, Trump is so low energy. Like, who do you think you're convincing, bro? Like, he only talked about the border, pushing culture war shit. Hey, that's what billionaires always do. They want to convince poor white people that immigrants are the reason why they have no cookies. Meanwhile, Trump fat ass is at a table full of cookies. That's all they do, man. I understand people who want to protect, engage in protectionist, nationalist politics. I do understand that. There are a lot of countries who engage in that. But in the United States, we have a unique problem of a rogue capitalist class who destroyed labor rights, who engaged in massive wage theft. I'm not shooing the problem of immigration altogether, but I'm telling you guys, in my opinion, in my analysis, based on what I've seen, based on my understanding of the theory of labor value, I would rank immigrants at the bottom 50. This is me personally of all the problems that we face. Like, if we had net zero immigration, and Trump says we got rid of the immigration crisis. So help me square that circle, my friends. If Donald Trump and MAGA policies ended the immigration problem, why are we seeing a massive boom of wages for the American workers? Because if you ask the average MAGA shithead, they believe, oh yeah, Trump, he closed the border. There's no more open border, guys. Trump closed the border. If the border is closed, why haven't we seen a massive uptick in the quality of life for the American people? You have polls, even Republicans that say they are being crushed by the affordability issue, the cost of living, aka capitalism. But people are too afraid to say that. I'm tired of people saying, oh, there's an affordability crisis. You mean the capitalism crisis? How do you guys think you're going to hit them never-ending profits? What do you guys think capitalists do when they see a crisis? You take advantage of every crisis, you engage in disaster capitalism, and you raise prices in the middle of a pandemic, in the middle of a war, in the middle of a storm. It doesn't matter. You always increase the prices of goods while always decreasing the cost of labor. This is basic labor Marxist theory. That's why if you understand Marxist theory, I don't understand why people have this belief that if we hit net negative immigration and all the illegal immigrants left, that somehow the Walton family, somehow Jeff Bezos and the capitalist class, out of the kindness of their heart, will then start paying the workers. Hey, don't you guys know that the only reason that Jeff Bezos been busting Amazon unions is because he's simply been waiting for the border to be closed? This is the kind of class analysis that libertarians and right-wingers have. Jeff Bezos doesn't engage in anti-labor practices just because Jose lived down the street. He's going to do that anyway, and he's going to blame Jose for why he's doing it. I just wish people understand this. I don't know. I've been asking people these kind of questions, and I understand that a lot of Americans, even guys, there's a lot of Marxists who disagree with me because Marxists take a hard line stance on immigration. Like I'm not saying that I'm correct here. I'm just telling you guys my perspective, even if you agree or disagree with it. I always been a freedom of movement kind of person. I took the old school libertarian approach. Once again, I don't even think it's a Marxist approach. It's more of a, I don't trust the capitalist government to control the movement of the working class, especially when they export labor all the time, when they have international businesses. And the only thing that stops people from moving across these imaginary borders is based on how much capital you own. Because then I'll ask those MAGA people, ask any of these hardline immigration people, why are they okay with Elon Musk? Elon Musk is a fucking immigrant. Well, don't you know he immigrated here legally? So essentially, the only thing that defines a country or not is whether someone has the amount of money it costs to cross a border. The right-wing people will be like, hey, man, if we don't have borders, we don't have a country. If we don't have a border, we don't have a country. We already have international capitalism, where people who have capital, despite their standing, can always cross nations. So in our international capitalist system, the borders exist to control the flow of what? Not just capital or people in general, workers in the working class. That's why I'm not expecting anyone to agree with me on this. I'm one of the people, I'll take a position. If it's not massively popular, I will stand there and I'll force you to explain it to me. That's my take I have, you know what I mean, on immigration. And this is why you see Trump, he engages in, and this is what all capitalists do, they engage in immigrant fear mongering because that's how they convince poor white people that Donald Trump isn't their enemy. Oh, look at this motherfucker. I don't give a fuck. This guy can't apologize all he wants. This motherfucker, he literally got on MAGA. He became a MAGA bootlicker despite warnings he received. I should flame this motherfucker. I go after Dave Smith all the time. I hate this dude, man. Look, despite my assumptions that Trump's second term would be a disaster, even when supporting him, get the fuck out of here. You wasn't saying that. Look how these people fucking rewrite history. You are full of shit, Dave Smith. I remember there was libertarians who was calling you out. I remember specifically there was libertarians and there was a lot of anti-war left-wingers who liked Dave Smith for whatever reason. They were calling out Dave Smith for why, like, man, you shouldn't be supporting Trump, man. I think this is a horrible move. And I remember this clearly. Whenever Dave Smith received pushback from that from his original diehard fans, he immediately will become extremely smug, condescending. He like, oh, you guys don't understand. You just guys don't understand politics. Like, I remember how you responded, bro. That's the reason why I've been all gas, no brakes on this motherfucker. Because the second that it was clear that Trump was not the man that he sold his audience to be, then he's like, oh, God, I'm sorry. I know I didn't mean, sorry, guys. I still got credibility, right? I still want credibility. I don't like these people. I think these people got a lot more they got to do than this apology. Like these people who lied. Like Dave Smith, you gaslighted the libertarian and the anti-war movement for 2 years. And by the way, for the people who think he's good on Palestine, he's one of the people who I condemn Hamas too. I condemn Hamas too. Once again, I don't get the hype, man. If I was a grifter, I would probably be on the Dave Smith train. I'll probably try to write an algorithm. I don't like these people, man. These people mislead the working class, and he was in order to gain a MAGA following. Like it wasn't an innocent mistake. Like I want people to understand that. He's a comedian. He has shows he had to sell. He's trying to build his own channel. So what do you do when MAGA was rising as the major cultural force in American politics, especially streaming? You had Donald Trump showing up at UFC fights. He was showing up at all these sporting events. He was the fucking culture. So what did all these spineless white dudes do? You have Dave Smith. You have Joe Rogan. You have the other doofy motherfucker. I don't remember his name. That doofy, like I don't remember his name. I don't know these people like that. But all these big podcast people like start supporting Trump because of the culture. And now that Trump is obviously a Jewish supremacist sellout, you want to start doing stuff like, oh my God, guys, I could never imagine how bad things would have been. Shut the fuck up. I can't believe this shit works on people. Now, I'll read a tweet. I haven't read a tweet yet. Despite my assumption that Trump's second term would be a disaster, even when supporting him, I'm blown away by how bad it's been. If only there wasn't people telling you that, bro. Like, you guys understand that these people exist to create a dumb American working class. So they can continually sheep herd them to corrupt politicians, and then when they expose that corrupt, they're like, oh, sorry, guys, I didn't know. It's a great business strategy. You saw people do it with Zohar Mamdani. Like, the best thing you do is ride those electoral waves. You're gonna see people do it in 2028. The same people made this tweet, Dave Smith, I bet you support Vivek Ramaswamy or some shit. I don't think he's gonna support JD Vance, but you gotta support someone else, bro. You gotta support another sellout motherfucker. You gotta tell your audience that he's not a sellout motherfucker. Then he's gonna sell you out, and then you're gonna come out and do another apology tour. This shit get old, man. Trump has spent the last year humiliating his movement. You should be humiliated. At least the propaganda should. Once again, if you're just an average American, I don't have that much heat for you. But people like Dave Smith who use his clout, you use your celebrity to do propaganda for the Zionist stooge, Donald Trump, and then everyone was warning your ass. Everyone was telling you that Donald Trump was a Zionist stooge. Oh, come on, man, you don't have no strategy. Well, if you guys saw how smug and condescending this guy was to people who even liked him, who were just kindly telling him about Donald Trump, you probably had the same smoke I do of this guy. Because I'm actually surprised at how shameless he is. I thought he would at least hold on to the MAGA grifter thing a little bit longer But he immediately U-turn like fuck. He's smart enough to realize that he bet on the wrong horse though. Yeah, I don't have time to dig it up, but you guys will see. Like I remember it, man. I remember all these. Like, I got a fucking long memory. I remember all this. Trump has spent the last year humiliating his movement and squandering the greatest opportunity in modern American history for real change. You fucking dipshit. I guess people should take responsibility and shouldn't get their political advice from a comedian dipshit. But bro, he was really selling to his audience that Trump was this amazing opportunity for the American working class for real change. Is that what you really thought, you dipshit? Oh, you lucky I'm live. Like, you guys know I've ratio dated Smith a few times. Fuck this guy, man. I hate these people. Like this. So you admit knew it would be a disaster. You supported him anyway. Big shout out to my homie here. Do you realize how completely idiotic it sounds? I don't have time to flame him myself, but I'll retweet this one. Man, I wish I had time to flame him. All right, let's check out some live responses to the Trump speech, if we can find anyone worth. I think I'm almost over. I think we're almost 3 hours in. I wanted to do a long stream today. Let's look at the trending time. So yeah, he didn't. So I guess that's newsworthy. Because I don't think, like you guys know, I don't think little of Tucker Carlson. But I don't think Tucker was lying when he said that he had sources from Congress telling them that Trump would start a war in Venezuela. You know what I mean? Like Tucker might he probably gonna take a lot of heat for that. And you guys know I'm always looking for a reason to shit on Tucker Carlson. But I do believe he said that because he believed it was true. Like he probably had a source. He probably heard it. I think Trump chickened out. I think Nicolas Maduro called his bluff. That was the title of a live stream I just did. Nicolas Maduro calling out the bluff. Like, dude, I explained with my guests that it would be politically suicide. Like, Republicans don't support this stupid fucking war. Like, even though I call out the corporate media for legitimizing his attacks on the Maduro regime, you even have neocon corporate media that's calling out Trump for this. There may be a mix of Trump derangement syndrome. Maybe that's a part of it too. But like the New York Times and Washington Post, even the mainstream media have been extremely critical of the war in Venezuela. So I think I think they really have no plan on how to advance this, to be honest. I think they're winging it. But I'm glad that speech wasn't long, dude. I started regretting watching that shit like halfway through. I'm so glad that speech was short. Because, bro, this shit, everyday domestic politics is so fucking boring and ass to me, bro. Like, if it's not class war, it's boring to me. Like, culture war shit, boring. The Charlie Kirk, Erica Kirk shit got so boring to me so fast. Like, the second I realized that shit wasn't going nowhere, I lost interest. Yeah, it was pointless. I take the L on that one. I wanted to do a live coverage or something for once on our channel. And you guys see, that's why I don't do it. It usually fucking ass, man. But I guess, like, another commentary, I guess we had to see it. Yeah, I said before that I think Trump definitely chickened out. And Maduro called his bluff. I did a segment on that, actually. Here's someone who agree with me. Oh no, don't tell me I'm ad blocked here. No, there it is. Here's someone who agree with me. Maduro has called Trump's bluff. U.S. must wage war or back down. Military morale is at a low. The American people disapprove of him waging war on Venezuela. The international community disapproves. You had the UK and Germany who stopped intelligence sharing with the United States because they opposed Venezuelan war against Venezuela so much. You guys know that's a gigantic deal. So the United States was becoming more isolated while Nicolas Maduro was picking up allies, including ones he did not have, like Gustavo Petro. You have Lula, who was critical of Maduro, who was signing on in support of him. You have many countries who were sitting that fence, especially in South America, who started to rally and support Nicolas Maduro. So it was a political nightmare for Trump, and Nicolas Maduro, being the absolute Chad that he is, he knows that he had Donald Trump in checkmate. That's why there are videos of him just dancing. You guys see them videos? Nicolas Maduro, like, I'm gonna fuck you, oh fuck you, you're not gonna do shit, and you're not gonna do shit, you're not gonna do shit. And he knows if Trump does do shit, America gonna face massive protests. America will be condemned on the international stage, and Maduro got shooters ready to play and work for him. So, with that said, I appreciate you guys watching my marathon stream tonight. Just for making up not going live on Monday. I have a banger for you guys on Friday. The homies at Midwestern Marks, our tanky homies, they join us tonight on Friday night to discuss some theory. Then I have my friends at DD Geopolitics, Chris and Lely, who will be joining us on Monday. You guys know I'm always in the lab cooking. I got more hotspot videos coming out. I have one released today, but I'll probably show you guys that on my channel tomorrow or Friday. Thank you guys for supporting us. Support us on Patreon if you want to support my labor. And if you want, I'm trying to fundraise to get a new mic as well. So there's a mic that costs like $300. That's better than that shitty ass $100 mic I bought that failed. So if you guys want to support my Patreon, even a small pledge, like $5 or so, the more support I get on there, the more I can upgrade my set, the more I can upgrade my audio, and make this presentation more professional, because that's a big goal of mine in next year. So thank you guys for supporting us. Have a great night. Take care, y'all.